Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you're joining it from. Hello and welcome again to the 13th episode of the show, The Future of Web. So this is a show about Web3 technologies. The intention of this is to educate people, to increase understanding and wider adoption of this technology. So here we discuss the current state of Web3 and how different personnel, like be it founder, investor, designer, developer, community manager, and the likes, are doing and impacting this place through their product or service. My name is Alek, and I'm the founder of Animoy Solution, which is a Web3 design and development company where we help companies transition from Web 2 to Web 3, starting with education, and then through metaverses, NFT marketplaces, applications on blockchain, and the likes. So enough about me. You can find all of that information on our LinkedIn page on our on website. Like we're still updating that to a bigger extent. And so without further, so let's talk about the guest. So today's guest, is like somebody who has been a developer for a long time. And then he dabbled in test, as a testing profession. Then he was a CIO, that's Chief Information Officer for company, and now is working as a tech lead in a Web3 company called WaveAct, which specializes in smart contracts and DApps, that's a decentralized applications. So without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Christof Jori. Hello, Christof. Hello, Christof.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
Good morning. I am good. How are you?
Perfect. All good.
Yeah. Nice early morning in Austria, right? So is
Yes,
it
no,
snowing there? Has it
it
started
has
snowing?
heavily snowed, yeah. Everything is white,
Heavily snowed.
cold.
Wow. Nice, nice, nice. So maybe after after we're done live, I want to see a look outside.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
because I'm in Delhi. I'm in
Yeah.
Delhi, we don't get to see the snow. Like the snow for us is primarily on the mountains,
No, it's
right?
it's right in front
So
of us, so I
it's
can switch the camera and give you a look.
interesting, interesting. Cool. Thank you so much for coming in,
Sure.
for doing this with us. Cool. So at this, like startup, I know it's a Saturday and it's early morning, like what, 9 a.m. right now, 8:39 a.m. And you're in your office working on the product or the project, right? So what is it that gets you up every morning?
What gets me up every morning is maybe a standard phrase, but it's the passion to work. It's just not being as a workaholic, but being getting up and knowing, hey, today I'm still very
Mhm.
young. I'm still in my 20s. So
Yeah.
this is maybe a misconception that many people have. You shouldn't work when you're in your 20s. You should live your life. And that is actually not true, I think, because in your 20s, you have the most energy. You need
Yeah.
you don't need that much of sleep to still be
Mhm.
very active. And so the passion drives me every day to get up, check what's on my mails, check if there are any tasks to do with Kevin. We
Mhm.
There's barely an hour where we don't write or call each other. So it's Monday to
Mhm.
Monday.
Absolutely, and I know like I've discussed earlier things with Kevin as well, and I agree. Like what you said about the misconception, because there's a lot of talk about, how do I say it? A lot of talk about trying to have that balance. Yes, balance is very very important. Nobody's saying to slog yourself to stress, but you have more energy and you can use it much more productively. Like I'm in late 30s, so I remember my time like I in my 20s I was like working because I was passionate. I was starting working as a designer, as a project manager and project lead. There was always so much work to do. I mean, and sometimes you would just find your work, and I somehow used to enjoy sometimes, not always, but sometimes going on a Saturday. Not many people, just relax, get your work done in a couple of hours, come back home. uh, I mean, I'm not saying that everybody should do that. I
No.
never asked all of my team members also to do that, but it's just something I kind of liked. Right? It's very interesting what you say.
Yeah, it's you get an advantage if you work on the weekend because most
Yeah,
people don't work.
yeah,
Most people want to take the
yeah.
days off. we also do take our time off and do, I don't know, nothing. Or but I don't know. Saturday has emerged as a normal, usual day to work for me. So
Yeah.
that's something normal to us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's very interesting, like how we position that together. Cool. So let's get to know you a little bit more. Okay, so you like working and you enjoy doing what you're doing. So do you want to share a secret, with the audience, something which you
Sure.
haven't shared with anyone else, like
Yeah.
which something you can probably share very easily.
Yeah, maybe a secret or a short story. I don't know. Many people can come up with such a story, but it's actually true. I started, or I had the first encounter with blockchain in, let's say it was 2013, 2014, um, when I actually had like 16, 17 Bitcoin, and I was
Okay.
still I was still that big, and I didn't know what the technology was all about, and that
Mm-hmm.
it can get that big. And so yeah, these are anyways they are lost, kind of. um, so there's just too much time passed, and since that
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done any blockchain, crypto, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, and most people will also say like, yeah, okay, if I had it back then, everything would be different. I'm pretty sure it would not, because
Mm-hmm.
back then it was hardly any value behind it. Was
Mm-hmm.
close to zero. You get it like for free,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah. So I think I would have sold. I was not even a student back then. I was coming right from school, no money, just doing some, yeah, junior things, programming.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just don't want to think back.
Oh yes, so I have a story around that. And sorry, my camera somehow ditched me, so I've
It's
come
okay.
back to my laptop camera. You know, so anyhow, so when I was it, it's early 2009 or 10. So there was a like a cousin of mine, my aunt's son. So he was studying in UK, right? So obviously, these kind of things had taken off by then. In Europe, in US, and started talking about it. So he called me, like give me some about $100, and I'll get you some Bitcoin. I said, what shit is that? Like, literally, sorry about the expletive, but uh, what is that? So then I started researching, and I found that it was not at that point in time, though it's still not, but it was not legal to trade in cryptocurrencies, and there was not much information available about it. So so me being the me, like I said, okay, let's pass on this, and it must be some scam and stuff like that. So obviously he was in the thick of things, like yourself. So he was in the thick of things, and people were talking about it, and so he ended up, so he had some mentor, and he ended up buying some Bitcoin, for
Mhm.
some amount of money. So I think he ended up having, I don't know, some number. I don't know the exact number, but so I passed on that opportunity. So if I now I look back, right? So investing $100 would have been huge back in
Yeah,
2005.
$100.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
So
thing
that's
is, what many people
yeah,
say is like, "Ah, if I had it back then, I don't know,
yeah,
I would be rich by now." No, would you?
no,
Which if back then they had a value of, I don't know, 50 cent, would you have kept it when
yeah,
it was at 4 grand? No, no one. Only the
yeah. They would
hardliners.
have left it. Absolutely.
Only the hardliners would have kept it. So yeah, I don't have bad memories for losing
Oh,
that,
same
or
here.
for not recognizing it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite an interesting story, by the way. So,
Yeah.
and you'll find tons of people, who would have done that, passed on the opportunity. See, we all think in hindsight, right? We all fall back and take decisions in hindsight, and and missing on this opportunity, there would be quite a lot of them, who would be not very happy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quite certain. Cool. So that's interesting note. So let's move on. So you started your career as a developer, as a programmer in Web 2, right? And so then you went to become, like being a part of a tech company at a senior level where you were a CIO, right? And now you're, in Web 3, like a soup in the hot thing in the middle of Web 3, building a product which is working on smart contracts and DApps. Like that's the core of Web3, core development piece, right? So why this progression? I know it's a gradual for a developer to, like become a CTO and have different applications, but why this move from Web 2 to Web 3?
Yeah, there's the progression is even longer. So I started programming when I was 13, 14, where I got a book
Mm-hmm.
gifted, The Java Island, which is still a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good reference. Got like
Mm-hmm.
1,000 pages, and my uncle gifted me this book, and this was kind of the beginning of my programming journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I then started to create Android applications, which was close to Java, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, after that, I always knew I wanted to work in backend. So the next step I did
Mm-hmm.
was getting my studies ready and working on backend technologies, which I do
Mm-hmm.
until today. And
Mm-hmm.
I met Kevin at the school. So in Austria, that's a bit different. There's like 8 years that everyone has to do, and an additional year where you either go working or do another
Mm-hmm.
school, do your studies. And I met Kevin there, and yeah, so we founded a social tech startup in 2018 then.
Mm-hmm.
And regarding the CIO title, um, well, if you found your own company, you can name yourself whatever you want. So just to
Mm-hmm.
demystify this, we bought shares of WEB3, which is a traditional finance company in
Mm-hmm.
Germany, and we had
Mm-hmm.
close relationships when working together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then the shift from actually going into Web3 was kind of logical. I
Mm-hmm.
I started intensively doing crypto and blockchain in 2020, where I
Mm-hmm.
started as a day trader. So I tried to, I don't know, I started with 100, 200 bucks, and thought of, hey, let's see how far we can go. And this went pretty good in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the next step was then, okay, so I've been programming all my life. Why not jump on this train, which is hype by that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah.
It's still a great hype around it. And so the entrance was made by Kevin when Kevin and I have been working for a couple of years, and he was like, "Hey, Chris, how's it going? What about Web3?" And Kevin founded Wayfact in 2018 or 2019, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Hey, I need support." And I was like, "Yeah, I love to program." And I also did a small project for him, which was back then was like a lottery system. So I created the D app for a lottery blockchain system, and
Mm-hmm.
this was like the very first encounter with it, and I felt like, hey, this really makes sense. And so
Mm-hmm.
I finally entered Web3, entered blockchain. Yeah,
Oh, interesting. So it was Kevin, who got you into this then.
yeah, it was Kevin who made the final kick, like
Push.
now it's time. Yeah, exactly, final push. And yeah,
Yeah, interesting. So how has the journey been, like from doing from Web 2 to Web 3 to learning, like, so I
yeah,
would say from the first point when you started actually learning or knowing about it, what is Web 3? Because developing means that, you got your hands dirty, like right in the middle of the sand, right? So
yeah, I
from
mean,
that point of learning to now, like, how's the journey?
I think if you have a programming background
Mm-hmm.
and and also know how front end development works in general, like React,
Yeah.
there the journey can be quite smooth to learn or to get into
Mm-hmm.
Web3. If you're not familiar with
Mm-hmm.
backend, if you're not familiar with front end, and have never done any testing, then the
Mm-hmm.
journey might be a bit more hard. But for me, it
Yeah.
was like, okay, I know React, I know how backend services work, so I had to
Uh-huh.
fully, I was able to fully focus only on smart contract development and
Yeah.
how the internals work. So my journey was kind of smooth, and I had the best mentor you can
Yeah.
imagine with Kevin. So
Okay.
that was pretty easy.
Nice. So you are developing on Solidity or Rust or both?
Solidity.
Solidity. So that means you're primarily on Ethereum.
Yeah, EVM fully focused.
EVM.
But
Yeah.
we want to expand that. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Oh yes. I think it'll have its own time, and with a lot of things coming into the picture, every new blockchain coming in the, in the, like every day there's a new blockchain coming up, right?
Yeah,
Some are, yeah. So some are POS focused, like in terms of Ethereum, but there are some others who are with benefits, and they everybody's coming up with their own concept of different blockchains now.
yeah,
So
that will definitely change. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
that in a couple of years there will be some established blockchains such as it forms today. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, and then there are different protocols also coming up. Which
yeah.
is a different way of looking at development and interesting stuff. So how? So what are the core challenges? Like now you're a team. So how many people are there in the team now?
So we're called developers is Kevin and I. We've
Mm-hmm.
got someone for sales. We've got one for marketing. We've got one person
Mm-hmm.
who creates our social media reels. So to
Mm-hmm.
shift the work away from us, and we have an exciting announcement to come up in the next couple of weeks because we are growing. So we had
Mm-hmm.
our second hiring round now finished last week, and yeah,
Yeah,
there's
fantastic.
some news that
Ah,
will be announced.
fantastic. So look forward to that.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Congratulations. So now let's like now you're building and expanding. So what are the core challenges you faced while putting your team together?
Yeah, core
Like.
challenges is we were in desperate need of a front end engineer because front
Mm-hmm.
end Kevin and I are not by default front end engineers. We're always been on
Mm-hmm.
the back end. We also
Mm-hmm.
don't have that thing you need for creating really good UI and UXs. So we try to grow in that front end scheme by outsourcing and by actually looking for someone who can help us with UI and UX.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
did it by now by ourselves, and it was not bad. But it's just not our
Mm-hmm.
core profession.
Yeah.
It's not where we are really good, where we excel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is one of the challenges. So yeah,
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but getting the other guys, like to understand, especially the social media person,
yeah,
because people are, natively Web 2, right? And they're coming into Web 3. So, and to market a product, you need to understand it very well, right? And that person will have to deal with two developers, right? I mean, developers think differently because I've,
so
deal with them, I've dealt with them, I've worked with them very closely. So they think very differently, very,
yeah.
very objectively. So I'm sure there must have been a lot of like I will not say fights, but like some disagreements, or the effort you would have to like spend extra time to explain what we are actually talking about.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, it's a conflict of interest because developers think differently than a marketer,
Yeah.
and sometimes you just have to admit that someone has the knowledge in his field, and
Yeah.
don't try to push your opinion through. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
communication going on, but this was very smooth in our case, so there were not that big of problems.
Ah, interesting. So that is nice. Okay, cool. So what are you guys also planning to do a product? Like are you guys working on a product as well now?
Yeah, we are. We are having ideas and the first concepts,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, but we're not going out here publicly. So this will all be part of the upcoming announcements we have. So there's a
Mm.
lot to come in the next weeks. We are growing,
Ah,
and yeah,
interesting. So, okay, so let's try and understand the internal dynamics, right? So you are a services team, company right now. You're helping other companies, build their smart contracts and stuff like that. So, but now within the same team, if you have to do the product creation, how would that be? Because product creation in itself is a very different ball game. You
yeah,
need to have, like one of the two of you will have to play the product owner role, who understands the product, and then you need, somebody to really write down the cases, what you really want to achieve, then initially draw the UI UX. So there's a different way of doing it. So do you think there are challenges within, like, with the same set of people trying to build a product as well as a service?
yeah. Of course, there will be a lot of problem, but we have like that work separation. Like Kevin is more the entrepreneur out of us two. I'm more the
Uh-huh.
tech guy, and so we are working. Whenever we have done something,
Mm-hmm.
it was smooth, and Kevin is more like the strategic head out of us too. So, and of
Mm-hmm.
course, working together with marketing, when you create a product, this is this is
Mm-hmm.
this is something that's just not serving or making a service for someone or providing something like I built your a D app or here's a smart contract. This is going over
Mm-hmm.
several months and possibly takes risk at the company too. Because if you lay all the
Mm-hmm.
focus on a product, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you have to invest time and it should better succeed. So there will be, and there are already a lot of challenges. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree, like, and ideally for a small company point of view, like, like 5-10 people, the ideal way of doing it is, you have a different services division and a different product division, like maybe with one person, and then somebody can do a little overlap between you and Kevin.
yeah. In the beginning, it's all together, and when you grow, you can separate things. But in the beginning,
Yeah.
you're doing everything.
Oh yes. So I mean, like, imagine the mindset of the person who's actually developing. So you get a priority list from the customer to, to build on his app, and then he was working on the product, like trying to ideate in a different zone, and switching between every now and then. It's a different challenge, right?
Yeah, it's focus. Focus is very important,
Focus. Yeah.
and you have to reset yourself to, okay, now I'm working on the product. Okay, now it's the customer, and
Yeah.
discipline, focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So how would you do that? Like, like just trying to understand the mindset there a little bit.
Regarding the product,
Yeah, product or different, like how do you focus on different things during the same day, right?
yeah,
And
it's
how do you do that?
you just have to. There's no like golden path. Um,
Yeah.
you have to be disciplined, set your boundaries,
Hmm.
say, okay,
Hmm.
um, 8 to 11, this is only focused on product, and maybe
Yeah.
give yourself some break for 10 minutes. I don't know, go for a walk. Go for a walk
Uh-huh.
has been, yeah, I think the biggest thing for me.
Hmm. Okay. So go for a walk, have a different, everything all right?
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Okay.
no, it's okay. That's fine. Cool. So what are the challenges, like, okay, so understand, how do you get the mindset and the team? But when you're talking about the product per se, so what are the challenges that, like, you facing right now, in ideation phase, as well
Yeah,
as you foresee would come, while building the Web3 product?
product market fit is a big thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
of course, you want to go out and check, does that actually make sense? Are there
Mm-hmm.
people who actually want to use it, want to buy it? Is there a need
Mm-hmm.
for the technology we use? Like,
Mm-hmm.
never do like, okay, blockchain is cool right now. Let's throw onto
Mm-hmm.
it. Let's just use
Mm-hmm.
blockchain. Is a bad approach. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
there are a lot of challenges. Also, creating time
Mm-hmm.
for you have to make time on the day where you cannot invest in creating other services or things. So you have to get that free time to actually
Mm-hmm.
invest in in the product. And
Yeah.
so yeah, there are a lot of challenges.
Mm.
Okay.
Interesting. Oh yeah, so I think the product market fit is obviously the code. So that has nothing to do with Web3 product or a Web2 or a Web1
Yeah.
or any side of product, right? Even it's a manufacturing car, right? So that has to be there. So now, what are the ways you think, like there's certain ways which are kind of standard ways, where everybody goes to the product market fit to find a product market fit, and whether if the product that you're creating does really make sense to the people, and would they be willing to pay. So what are the ways that you would go out and find that product market fit?
Yeah.
Like if you can
Feedback.
share that.
Feedback. First of
Mm-hmm.
all, analyze the market. What is actually there right now? If there are,
Mm-hmm.
this has not to be a completely new product. You can also,
Yeah.
like, for example, Notion is a perfect example of that. Notion
Yeah.
took like an existing solution and
Mm-hmm.
built just something better, in my opinion. I really
Yeah.
like Notion. So
Mm-hmm.
this is just one way of analyzing things, but market analysis is yeah, mandatory. And also checking
Mm-hmm.
what are my potential customer groups, what is the
Mm-hmm.
target group. And from
Mm-hmm.
then on, feedback. Go out, ask people, ask other
Okay.
business,
Hello. Mm-hmm.
pitch to your friends on LinkedIn or connections. They will
Yeah.
immediately tell you, hey, that's not going to work, or these are my concerns. And then you have to
Mm-hmm.
rework the feedback, and yeah, there's a lot of things to bear in mind. And also on a technological side speaking, like, is it even
Mm-hmm.
possible to do it in this way? Will it scale up? What if the users increase drastically? These are all things you have to consider in Web3, and also when using blockchain.
Yeah.
So
In blockchain specifically, yes, so that's what I had some question next. So when you're building products in blockchain, it's not the regular updates that you have to do every weekend or every Friday. Like there's a patch upgrade going to the cloud, and they'll automatically be reflected towards different users. So once it is on main net,
yeah,
so it's a different ball game, especially in yeah. So the question that I really want to have is, assuming that the product is already there and it's already deployed, and now you have to do or amend a code, like you want to fix a bug in there, something which has already been deployed in mainnet. So how do you really handle that?
yeah. Good luck. Um, there is. That's why testing is so important, and I know testing will not get rid of every bug there could potentially be, or security
Yeah.
vulnerabilities in the future.
Mm-hmm.
A possible solution would be to use upgradable contracts. Like Open
Mm-hmm.
Zeppelin has two very big upgradable contracts, transparency pattern and UUPS. And the difference
Mm-hmm.
between these two is just where is the actual logic that upgrades the contract. But in the end,
Mm-hmm.
you could upgrade your contract, and what you are doing is just, like in computer science, everything points to a specific address. And what you are doing
Yes.
is you just add the pointer from address 1 to address B, and so the proxy delegates the call to another contract. And this
Yeah.
is some way of kind of getting rid of. You will not actually upgrade the existing contract,
Existing
so the
contract.
existing contract will be there, but
Yeah.
you're pointing to a newly created contract that hopefully has fixed the
The
bugs.
previous problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's more like the commented code that we usually keep in Web2 stuff, right? You comment it with a slash and a star, both ends, and let it reside there in the whole chain, but it doesn't function, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of similar to that. You just point it towards a different direction. It's very interesting. I mean, I know it's very easier said than done, like getting there, understanding that. So that's where testing plays a fantastic role, and a very big role, especially when you're building on smart contracts. So how does the testing process within your environment, how does that work?
well, testing is huge in our environment. I learned and tried to learn the theories of testing for, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years now, which is something I really like to know on a theoretical thing and also
Mm-hmm.
practical. How we do it in our company, in our two companies, is that we heavily rely on test driven development. So
Mm-hmm.
write a test which fails, then write the bare minimum code so that the first test passes and refactor both.
Mm-hmm.
This is a circle you keep
Mm-hmm.
on repeating, repeating, repeating. And
Mm-hmm.
this has a lot of advantages. You will only write the code that is needed. You will always refactor existing code. And
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that is really important about testing is you're kind of creating something that keeps you secure if you refactor something. So I could tell a story
Mm-hmm.
about the WEB3 company where Kevin and I
Mm-hmm.
had we've been working for, I don't know, 14 days, day and night, and
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was uh, it was done. And our
Mm-hmm.
CEO has had some adjustments and say we have to do some things differently. And it was
Mm-hmm.
the first real big refactor session, and we had to
Mm-hmm.
refactor the whole application. And
Mm-hmm.
by that time, we had about 500 tests, and
Mm-hmm.
we refactored everything, and
Uh-huh.
we kind of had the impression everything is done. We started the application, everything worked, and then we started the test suite, and we had about 70 to 80 tests that failed. And
Okay.
this is exactly the protection you get from doing test stream development. And the thing, if you don't do test stream development, yeah, these bugs are undiscovered, and this is the best way to introduce bugs to a production system. So we refactored everything, checked the tests again, and since then,
Mm-hmm.
these bugs that occurred after that refactoring, they were basically gone. And so testing is not only in Web3, Web2, and there are a lot of companies out there that don't do testing at all because we arguments be like, no, I don't have time for that. I don't have the resources. My developers have to do the production code instead. There are a lot of companies out there.
Oh, yes, I agree. I mean, I have not come across personally, any company which doesn't do testing at least, like I was part of a product company for 13 and a
Mhm.
half years, so I was leading their design and delivery vertical. So we had a big testing team, and it was in broadcast. So it was very important, to have the test done, because what happens is, when you're going live, it's like real time, going the product will be used, and you can't really afford to have any bugs, at that point in time. So we had a big testing team, and I think that's was with most. Obviously, we do a little bit of white box testing so that a certain amount of code is tested directly at the developer level, right? Before we actually goes to the testing department itself, and that kind of streamlines the whole development pipeline. But still, I think testing is a very important role,
Yeah,
because
and
a developer will, especially when everything is combined, like everything is assembled and given as a product.
I mean, if you begin all these very young companies that maybe have no investment, um,
Mm-hmm.
they always or mostly always start without tests because you have like the product idea. Okay, let's get the product to the customer and let's get some money. Let's make sure that the company exists in a year. So let's do
Mm-hmm.
that testing a bit later, which is completely understandable. But you gotta jump on that test train as soon as possible. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but see, I think the fallback would, obviously, it's important to get it to the customer, make some money to survive, like at
yeah,
least be there, that the name is still there, after a year. But isn't that a challenge? Because if you're giving a buggy software, I mean, rest assured, like there will be some amount of bugs. Big, small can be discussed, but there will be some bugs. So, what sort of experience are you giving to a customer with a buggy product? So that it's a kind of a trade-off maybe they're willing to make. No.
yeah. Mostly in the beginning, if you're really a young team, your
Mm-hmm.
product might not be that complex, and
Mm-hmm.
you can also test your code, kind of test your code by trying
Mm-hmm.
through it and by actually using
Mm-hmm.
it for a week or two without
Mm-hmm.
without writing any line of code. that tests a production environment.
Yeah.
So in the very beginning, I think many customers know that this is a young startup, this is a young tech company. Of course, there can't be every flow can't be working for perfectly like an enterprise or like a Microsoft corporation. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is pretty usual, and I've seen a lot of companies who have like 7 to 10 people and do no testing, and these companies work just fine. But the
Mm-hmm.
longer your software and the more updates your software receives, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So technical debt is a very good term here. So if you quick fix things, when you do hot fixes and tell yourself, okay, this has to be fixed. I will
Mm-hmm.
write a real code tomorrow. Yeah, this
Mm-hmm.
is the best way to actually introduce a lot of bugs to your software. And with testing, this can also be eliminated. Write a test. Every bug that comes in, whenever I receive a bug, I write a test first,
Mm-hmm.
check
Mm-hmm.
if that is true, and then write the production code for it. So this
Yeah.
bug should never ever happen again. But you can't be 100% sure that your software is bug free. It will never be, but at least secure the the bugs you have.
Yes, I think that's a good approach as well. Like at least take the one which is there in front of you before you kind of
Yeah.
put in more bugs by building in more features, right? So that at least the experience keeps getting better with the same kind of product, right? Whereas you have built in 20 more features and 15 are buggy, like so to say, or maybe these 20 work, but the previous one stopped working,
Hmm.
and there are challenges and there's all like whole possibility that it may or it may happen, right? Cool. So do you have competition in the work that
Sure,
you guys are doing?
of course.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So
I know
we have
it's a
the
very wide term, but do you experience it like in your daily life that you approached a client or a customer came to you and
we
from
have
that
the
perspective?
big advantage that though we are located in Austria, we
Uh-huh.
barely set any foot on Austrian ground in terms of businesses. So we're
Uh-huh.
kind of our customers, our clients, our partners. They're all international.
Uh-huh.
So this kind of removes the level of people working against us.
Yeah.
But we want to. What is one of our main goals for 2023 is to make more impact on Germany, Austria, Switzerland, like Central Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so actually, currently, competitors, of course, they are there, but we don't feel
Yeah.
like they're actually taking something away from us
Mm.
because
Nice one.
we have so many international clients and partners, and we're still
Mm-hmm.
a very young company. So don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
we're uh, we're like 5 people. So if there are
Mm-hmm.
some contracts, we are satisfied. And
Mm-hmm.
even though we're in that, let's call it the economic crisis and
Mm-hmm.
electricity crisis and beer market, the demand is still there. I don't expect it to get worse in 2023.
Ah, so that's a very nice approach of looking at it, like
Yeah,
the way it is right now, even if it stays consistent, slightly a little better on, on other side of it, it
customer
will still be
retention
good.
is a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. Retention is very, very important. I mean, all our businesses, like you're also in service, I'm in service right now. So it's very customer retention is fantastic. I mean, that's what you live on, right?
yeah.
In a way.
If it works, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Nice. Oh, it's good. Cool. So what are your, like for, I would say forecast for 2023 and, like forecast, what's your forecast for 2023?
Um, my forecast for 2023 is, so let's divide it on financially thinking, I think that the interest rates, which have been increased recently again, I think that
Mm-hmm.
inflation will decrease. I'm pretty sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to
Mm-hmm.
the great thing is at our company at Detroit, we have connections to very, very good and very high financial advisors. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think the inflation thing will kind of get lower. In Central
Mm-hmm.
Europe, we are about 10% now. I know in the US it's a bit lower, and
Mm-hmm.
there are also other countries that kind of exploded, like Turkey, 80% or 90, and also if you go more south in Europe, there's also, I guess, Hungary has like a bit 20%. So I think inflation will decrease a bit, and the demand
Mm-hmm.
for Web3 and the beer market, I think 2023 will be like 2022. I think the Bitcoin halving
Mm-hmm.
in 2024 can be again the explosion to a bull run. So
Mm-hmm.
this is something I might think is possible. But the general outlook
Wow.
is good. I, I still, though we are in this wild economic circumstances, I
Yes.
think it could be way more, way worse. And there are a lot of people who think like, okay, we either end up in a recession that is
Mm-hmm.
hard, or we end up in a
Mm-hmm.
recession that kind of breaks down everything. And those opinions have changed since then. So people are more like now, okay, we're kind of having like a soft landing in 2023, and I think that too.
Hmm. That's a very nice positive approach, like, because my next question was what is your view of Web3 in 2023 in the current way, which is positive, negative, neutral. So you already answered it's positive.
Yeah, I think it will be positive. And with the upcoming of AI is not a
Yeah.
competitor to blockchain, not in any case.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Maybe it's even better because now the hype and blockchain must succeed now. It's been so many so many years, and there's no real thing out there in blockchain development. Maybe if people are now focusing on AI and kind of don't look at blockchain every day, this is like perfect. Let the people build something on blockchain, and yeah, good to go.
Oh yes, I agree with that. Like there has to be a lot of products coming out in blockchain. I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. So I had one of the guests earlier. So they have built what he has built is he's built a podcasting platform on blockchain. So they've used Solana, right? And I have hosted one of my podcast one episode right now on that blockchain itself, right? So it takes a tiny amount of money, to mint it, like tiny amount of Solana to mint through through a phantom wallet, and that's a very good use case. And the vision of that, like that company, the product is that people would eventually want to pay some money for the content they want to hear. So what will happen is over a period of time, it's a market effect will take place where like bulk of people who like one particular host and talk, so they will kind of pay for it, and it will automatically filter the good ones from the
Mhm.
bad ones, right? As opposed to the market driven, like where there's a lot of marketing and money being put in to pay people, like there's a play to earn is a very big thing in
Yeah.
web3, right? Right. So it's like that, and it's a fantastic platform, and we
Yeah.
need like so many products like that.
I'm pretty sure of that.
No.
Yeah. And no, I think just to close that one, I think the future
Mm-hmm.
will be great in terms of Web3 because there's just so many opportunities, and
Mm-hmm.
people are creating everything every day, and these small steps are just needed. There's
Yeah.
nothing that is created overnight. This will take some time,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we'll be all good in future.
Oh, absolutely, fingers crossed. Nice. So on the last note, Christoph, we are right at the end of the show. So one or two critical pieces of advice you want to give it to who's entering into Web3 at this juncture, primarily students, like or new age entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
What's
So
your?
we had our hiring round ended last week, and we talked to a lot of students, and I got
Mhm.
very many impressions of how people are. And I can only say we hired one because she
Mhm.
was she was so interested and passionate about it. And the best thing to do is like sit down, learn it, try to understand it, and go out
Mhm.
there. I know it's hard for juniors to find a job. It's also hard for
Mhm.
us to find juniors. Like everyone wants to have seniors. There's no one interested in
Mhm.
juniors. So
Yeah.
my advice is to go down, do these exercises, do the learnings, and try to actually apply. And also, GitHub is a big reference. The better your CV looks, and I don't talk about
Mhm.
universities or things. This is totally irrelevant to us. What we need or want
Mhm.
is passion, experience, and the right mindset. And you should be
Mhm.
funny. Funny is being sarcastic about someone and being sarcastic about yourself. The best advice I can give.
Mhm. Ah, fantastic, fantastic. That's a very different way of looking at things. Fantastic, Christoph. Like I can obviously call you Chris. So it
Sure.
was a pleasure having you here. Like thank you viewers for joining in. And there were a lot of nuggets about how to build a company, how to start like the development, what's kind of important if you're developing a product in blockchain. So you can rehear this whole thing. It will be available on YouTube. Say from tomorrow,
Perfect.
right? And you can also follow Chris on LinkedIn. His goes by the name ChristofJori. So that's Christoph Jori. Follow him. He will share tons of advice there. And also follow Kevin. Kevin keeps
Yeah,
sharing a lot
definitely.
of nuggets about a lot of nuggets about smart contracts. So that's fantastic. Follow the company Wave. It's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week ahead,
Thanks for having
or
me.
rather weekend. Yeah. See you, man. Take care. Yeah. Cool. Let me just end this here.